Hey everybody, Jeremy here. So today I'm going to tell you 10 e-bike facts that I think that you should know if you're planning on buying yourself an e-bike, because these things are getting really popular these days. You see a lot more people riding around on them because they're just so much fun to have, to get out and explore trails or your city, wherever you're planning on doing. So I'm going to give you 10 facts that I've come to learn when it comes to riding an e-bike. So number one, the sudden takeoff from an e-bike can be a little bit jarring. So what I mean by that is, once you get in a couple of pedal rotations on the e-bike, you'll find that it's not like a regular bike where you just kind of take off at a nice smooth pace that corresponds to how hard you're pedaling. No, you get a couple of rotations in and all of a sudden you're just like whoosh, and it's not a massive burst of speed, but it is enough to shock you the first few times. And that's due to the way that e-bikes work. Now, when it comes to pedal assist, you get two forms. You get cadence sensors, and then you have torque sensors. When it comes to e-bikes that are not, I wouldn't call them cheap, because really no e-bike is cheap in my opinion, but when it comes to some of the ones that are less than, let's say, $1,500 or more, you're dealing with something called a cadence sensor, which basically just looks at the rotation that you're giving the pedals and is going to tell the motor, okay, kick on. And that's what makes it so jarring. It doesn't take into consideration how hard you're pedaling. It just wants to know that you're pedaling. And torque sensors, which tend to come on more expensive bikes, they actually take into consideration how heavy you're pedaling, how hard you're pedaling. So if you pedal softly, the motor is going to give you a little bit of power. If you pedal really hard, the motor is going to work harder and it's going to provide you more power. The feel is more sturdy than a cadence sensor, but at the same time, you're going to be paying more when you decide to do that. So at first, the overall feeling can be really quite surprising at first. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not something that you can't get used to, but it is something that you should know. The second e-bike fact I want to tell you is that these things are heavier than they look. Now, on the surface, they look like regular bikes, albeit there's some wires and whatnot hanging from it. But there's so much more that goes into it. You're dealing with batteries, and you're dealing with the motor, and all these other different components that end up making the bike heavier. And when it's heavier, not only does it mean that it's heavier to pick up and move around, also heavier to pedal without any kind of pedal assist. So if you're riding out there somewhere and you happen to run out of battery, and then you have to find a way to get back and you have to pedal your way back home, that right there can be quite a task if the bike is heavy. E-bikes tend to weigh, I want to say, between about 40 and 80 pounds. Of course, that weight is going to be added depending on if you attach different accessories and whatnot to it. But typically, we're going to go between 40 and 80 pounds. So if you need to lug yours up a flight of stairs in an apartment or something like that, just be aware that you're not going to be one-handing it unless you happen to be quite strong. You're going to need a little bit extra strength to move these bad boys around. So take a look at those weight specs on whatever bike that you're planning on and checking out or you're planning on getting, so you can know exactly how heavy it's going to be. Now, with that being said, some people might think, well, because it's an e-bike and you got this pedal assist and this motor is doing some of the work for you, Well, do you ever get any actual exercise? Can you actually go out and, burn some calories on these things? And answer to that is yeah, you can. You can burn calories. You can still get exercise on these bikes because of what I just said. They're heavy. So if you are using a low pedal assist, like for example, this bike has pedal assist from 1 to 5. I'm riding it in 2. I tend to keep it between 1 and 2, and then I'll hit 3 or maybe even 4 if I need to go up a hill, because there's a lot of hills around here. But besides that, it's it's heavy. So when you only have a little bit of pedal assist and you have a bike that's heavy, you can feel yourself moving it with these pedals. So yeah, you can get some kind of exercise still with these bikes. And especially if you happen to also have paddle shifters. So for example, this is a 5-speed Shimano shifter, like right here on my right side. And the lower the gear, the easier it is to pedal. So if I bump this up, I'm on it's like level 2 right now maybe. I bump it up to 3. I can feel the tension on my legs get a little bit tougher. So if you're on flat ground, or maybe you just want to give a little bit of more oomph to your ride, you can just move up in those gears if your bike has gears like that, and it'll make the experience a little bit more challenging, so you can still get some exercise. You might even hear me kind of breathing a little harder because I'm putting in a little bit of work. Yeah, there's a motor in this thing, but I'm still putting in a little bit of work. So yeah, you can get exercise on here. But where are you going to be getting that exercise? See, as I'm going downhill now, hitting like 17 miles per hour, no pedaling because there's so many hills. But anyway, where are you going to get that exercise? Well, I'll tell you where you can get that exercise. You might want to just ride around the neighborhoods like this, or maybe you want to hit up an actual trail somewhere. And that kind of brings me to my next fact. Know the laws. As usual, technology moves a lot faster than lawmakers can think. So when it comes to e-bikes, there are some places that are still kind of about it. And then there's some places that are more open. There's some places that don't really care, do whatever you're going to do. In some states, it may not be legal for you to take an e-bike out on a regular biking trail. It might not be. But then again, it might be. Here in Georgia, it is legal for any e-bike for an e-bike, I should say, to go on any traditional biking trail. That's just the way it is. And in some places, maybe not so much. So you have to just double check and be sure. And I'm not saying that you should break any laws or anything, but at the end of the day, these are bike trails we're talking about, and who's really gonna know, besides somebody who might be seeing you and they're on the path, and maybe they're just really stuck up about e-bikes. Look how steep this is. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, someone who's really stuck up about it, maybe they are a fitness rider, and they don't like e-bikes because they think it's cheating. They might try to give you a little bit of a hard time, but who cares what they think? They're not the law. So I would just say, in theory, if you were going to take an e-bike onto a trail where having e-bikes is not 100% legal, that you just use the basic principles of being a decent human being, and just don't be a jerk about it. Don't blow past somebody going 28 miles per hour and they're pushing a baby carriage or a stroller. Baby carriage? I'm not that old. A stroller on the side of the road. Just be kind, be sensible, and if you do that, then yeah, you should be okay. The next fact about e-bikes, and probably should have had this one before the last one, is when it comes to your battery, um, it might seem like common sense, but just in case you don't know, more pedal assist means more battery used. Now, when you go to look at an e-bike, the manufacturer is going to tell you how many miles that you can get out of it. And it's always in their best interest to make those numbers as high as reasonably possible. They want it to be that way so that you can go, oh man, I can go 40 miles on this thing. That's fantastic. And that is good mileage. But those are under the best possible conditions. With the very first pedal assist on perfectly level ground with no real trouble or complications. But if you are in a place that has a decent amount of hills, like I do, or if you weigh a certain amount, if you're a heavier person, those miles are going to go down. And if you use a higher pedal assist level, those are also going to go down. So riding in the highest pedal assist mode, yeah, you're going to get around a lot faster, but you can cut your estimated mileage in half if you're doing that exclusively. And that's doubly true if you're using a throttle. Next point, the three classes of e-bikes that you can get. All right, so there's three different classes. The first class is class 1. Class 1 e-bikes are pedal assist only bikes, which means the motor only works when you pedal. It doesn't have a throttle, like a motorcycle or a scooter does, just pedaling. Limited to 20 miles per hour, and the motor only works when you pedal. Then you got your class 2 e-bikes, which pretty much the same thing, 20 miles per hour. The motor turns on as you pedal. But one distinction between them is that those bikes also have throttles. And when they have throttles, they classify as class 2 e-bikes because you don't have to pedal if you don't want to. You can just throttle up and get moving. Now, like I said, when you use the throttle exclusively, you're going to run your battery down even faster than before. Then you have your class 3 e-bikes. Class 3 e-bikes is a combination of both of those things. The motor works when you pedal. You got a throttle most of the time. And then, in addition to that, they are faster. 28 miles per hour. Now, sometimes if they come from the factory, like the electric XP does, you can't go 28 miles per hour out of the box because some places may say that having a class 3 e-bike is not legal. So they ship it as a class 2 e-bike, but if you go into the settings of the main display and you change some things around, you can unlock that extra power to get it up to 28 miles per hour at your discretion. Okay, so those are the three different classes of e-bikes that are on the market that you can buy. But no matter what kind of e-bike you get, just know that these things can be magnets for theft. Absolute theft magnets, because these are cool bikes, and it's hard to hide them if they're out in public. If the wires aren't, like perfectly hidden, if the wires are just kind of hanging out and exposed like this one is, people are going to know that this thing is an e-bike, and they just kind of have a look to them. It's like an electric car. A lot of electric cars have a very unique look to them, and they look like electric cars. So if you're going to be riding this thing around, you're going to be leaving it out of your eyesight, you're going to have to consider some type of security, different kind of locks and stuff like that. Some of the locks that I use, like I don't take this anywhere to just leave it out because, I just don't live in a place where, biking really anywhere is actually feasible. But when I do have my scooter, which, I can ride on main roads and everything, when I go to lock that up, I use Kryptonite branded chains and locks. That's just what I like. I like the kryptonite stuff. They are very good. Just know at the end of the day, if somebody really, really wants to take it, they are going to take it. The main goal is to just deter them and to make the experience for them much more of a hassle than they may want it to be. That's the main goal here. So just be on your guard when it comes to security, because people out there they may want to steal your stuff. That's just how it is. All right, next fact. E-bikes are more dangerous than regular bicycles. I know that it has bike in the name, but these things are motorized. And like I said, even the class 1 e-bikes can go up to 20 miles per hour. And 20 miles per hour may not seem that fast when you're in a car. But the whole scenario changes when you have nothing protecting you. There's no cage, there's nothing. It's just you, the open air, and gravity that can pull you down to the ground. So even if you grew up riding regular bikes and you just had on a regular bicycle helmet, I really strongly encourage you to consider upping your gear when you're riding an e-bike. Now, you probably don't have to go all out like I do. I mean, you can look at what I'm wearing. Okay, I'm wearing a full face motorcycle helmet because this is what I have. I have my Kimco Super 8 150 that, going up to 50 miles per hour. So I am going to be wearing a full face helmet when I'm riding that thing. And I didn't want to buy a new helmet to ride this bike around. So that's why I'm using this helmet, because this is what I have. But I would also recommend that you too get a full face helmet. Maybe not, you don't have to get like a full face motorcycle helmet like this, but maybe just like a full face mountain bike, downhill mountain bike helmet. Something that covers your full face, but it has a lot of different openings for like ventilation and all that stuff to try to help keep you cooler. Just something like that. I personally just don't recommend you get like a regular little shell kind of a helmet that you put, that you just kind of put on your head, and then the sides of your face are wide open and the front of your face is wide open. Because if you fall, you don't want your face to be hitting the pavement, and you can do a lot of damage even going 8 miles an hour, let alone 20. So things become a little bit different. They become a little bit more dangerous. So, a bouncy castle. So with that being said, it's a good idea to up your gear game. At the very least, I think you should wear a full face helmet and some gloves. Because if you fall, if you're in a position to put your hands out, that's what you're going to do instinctively. And you don't want your hands to, get gravel and glass and sticks and all that stuff, jammed into your hand. So at least you can protect your hands and you can protect your head. And this other stuff can be, extra, like these elbow guards and whatnot. This is just what I do. But, you do you. Those are just the suggestions. But I'm telling you that things can be dangerous. So just protect yourself. Tip number 9. Riding your bike in the rain. Is your bike waterproof? Is it water resistant? It's going to vary depending on the bike that you have. But in general, the answer is going to be kind of. Take this bike, for example. It has an IP rating of 65, which means that it is nice and tightly sealed against dust, and it can withstand low pressure water jets from all sides. What does that mean? It means if you get caught out in a little bit of rain, you should be okay. If it gets a little bit wet, you should be okay. But if it's really coming down and it's a bit of a downpour, you don't want to do that. You also don't want to go splashing through puddles, and you don't want to find yourself in any high water, and you don't want to find yourself in standing water. You don't want to do that. You don't want to damage the electronics. So if it gets wet a little bit, you're riding around, let's just say like right now, if it started to drizzle a bit, the electronics in this bike is going to be okay. But this is not something that you want to roll around with on a very wet day. You're going to have a bad time. You just don't want to risk it, you know. And in general, just try not to ride around if you think it's going to rain, if it looks like it might rain, you know, because your phone is probably water resistant. It may be, you know, totally water resistant. They say, hey, you can dunk this thing in the ocean for 5 minutes and it'll be totally fine. And that may be true. But how many people actually go around doing that? Look how steep this hill is. Still in pedal assist too, so I'm just taking my time, but man, a lot of freaking hills around here. And these are the type of things that'll drain your e-bike battery quickly. And I mean quickly. My last and final e-bike fact, and this one is the fun one to bring it all home. They're fun. Okay, they're just plain fun. There's no denying that fact. Being able to get around easily, or a lot more easier than you would on a regular bike, and especially for older people, e-bikes are a hit with the older generation because it allows them to have a lot more mobility to get out, explore campgrounds, explore their town. Even though they might have mobility problems or bad knees or some type of pain that would normally prevent them from doing things like that, it gives them more freedom. And there's no more freedom than being out here in the elements of the wind, feeling it rush past you at right now 25 miles per hour going downhill. It's refreshing, it's nice, it's just very, very fun. So go out there, get yourself an e-bike if you want one, and go and have some fun. All right? So those are the 10 e-bike facts that I have to present to you, and I hope that this helped you out in some way, any way whatsoever. And if you have any other tips or facts or whatever that you would like to share with anyone watching this video, go ahead and leave it in the comment section. Spread the knowledge and spread the love of e-bikes. All right, so that is it for now, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, I'm Jeremy, and I'll talk to you later.